YouTube demonetization's about to come from us because you can't have guns on your... Ow, I like slapped my shoulder. You know, anytime I decide to wear a tank top in a video, I always get told you gotta be jacked, you gotta be yoked, and I'm like, whatever happened to the days of just dressing according to the weather? Is that not allowed anymore? Maybe I just wanna wear Saiyan armor. Come on. Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. As promised in yesterday's video, we are talking about the Elder Scrolls 6 leak. Yes, it appears there's a drippy faucet over at Bethesda. You guys like how I use props? There's a drippy faucet over at Bethesda once more. First it was Fallout 76 and its future. Now, Elder Scrolls 6 possibly? No, sorry, I hope I didn't get any of you excited. So the reason I'm talking about this leak is because a lot of videos ran away with this leak, a lot of websites ran away with this leak, and that's fine because at first it did look legit in a lot of ways, but it's already been proven fake. Matty, why are you talking about ye old leak? Well, number one, a lot of people still think it's real. Number two, it opens up a great avenue for discussion that I haven't had an opportunity to do so in quite some time. Probably my number one most requested content on my channel is Elder Scrolls 6, but it's so far off that I want to do it. Arguably, I'm more excited for ES6 than Starfield because we all know how Bethesda treats the Elder Scrolls license when it comes to the mainline entries. So that idea is just so exciting. But content-wise, it's just lore that I could talk about. And I'm gonna be straightforward with you guys. I know some of my Elder Scrolls lore. I think I'm more fluent in Fallout lore, but I'm not at the level for Elder Scrolls where I could sit here and bang out videos on what should happen next in the Elder Scrolls timeline. There's a lot I have to learn, and I just want to be transparent about that. But what I do have a degree in is speculation, and we're gonna do a little bit of that here in today's video. So let's get into Ye Old Leak, which you can find on yeoldelderscrolls.fandom.com. The post begins with this person claiming that they got kicked off of Reddit for a BS leak, and now they've come to the Elder Scrolls fandom because they trust them. Look, I know I'm in my mid-20s. I'm not here to offer you wisdom or experience, but in my years of experience in this industry, if you see a leak start off with someone explaining why they got booted off one website and they're here to share their delicious secrets with you, it's probably fake. Please don't fall for it. With that in mind, the reason a lot of people bought into this leak is because it's oddly detailed. It has some pretty unique ideas, and we're gonna go through all of them because I hope Bethesda's listening to some, I'll be honest. The Elder Scrolls 6 is apparently going to be called Redfall, and it'll take place in High Rock and Hammerfell, 6 years after the events of Skyrim. The general political scene will be that Hammerfell is very well off and in a relatively stable state by Tamrielic standards, while High Rock is much more fractured among many nobles and their territories. A bit similar to Skyrim in the sense that there will be very clearly defined subregions, but most of these regions will be warring against each other. This is because Bethesda wants to use this generation's hardware to create some huge, epic battle scenes with dozens, if not hundreds of characters battling on screen in real time. Big battles are always at the forefront of every Elder Scrolls 6 leak I've ever seen. It's always saying that Bethesda is using this generation's technology to fuel some truly awesome battles, and while none of that has been confirmed, I can believe it to an extent. Probably one of the weakest elements of Elder Scrolls is its combat, and one way to improve that is to enhance the scale of the entire battle itself, bring true wars to life, not these awkward battles between factions like we saw in Skyrim where it was clearly limited by the engine. You could see what they wanted to do, but they just couldn't accomplish it with the current tech. And we have heard Todd Howard say many times that they're waiting for the technology to be right for the Elder Scrolls 6, and what exactly that is, we don't know.
But it is, you know, I have to be careful what I say. It's a very long way off. I could sit here and explain the game to you, and you would say, that sounds like you don't even have the technology. How long is that going to take? And so it's something that is going to take a lot of time, what we have in mind for that game. And that'll make sense many years from now.
Okay. So that's amazing. So you have a vision in your head of what you want Elder Scrolls 6 to be.
We think very long term. We're not a developer that's going to like rush something like this out.
Yeah.
Any of our games. So when you think about what is the future of that kind of game, you know, we have a pretty good idea of what it would be, and it's just going to take technology and time that really we don't have necessarily right now.
Okay.
Maybe it's outside of this coming generation, I doubt it, but still, it's worth thinking about. Now, this is the only time I'm gonna get my lore on, because this first paragraph is where I think you could just instantly blow a hole in the leak if you're relatively familiar with ES lore and can piece some parts of the puzzle together. They claim that Hammerfell is in a relatively stable state, and I'm not saying that it isn't, but let's backtrack a little bit to one of my favorite books in Skyrim called The Great War. In there, we learn about the White Gold Concordat, which resulted in the banning of the worship of the god Talos. Due to the Empire bending the knee and agreeing to this deal with the Thalmor, the Stormcloaks formed and wanted to usher Ulfric Stormcloak himself into power to lead the Empire. Hammerfell, mind you, refused to accept the White Gold Concordat, leading to 5 more years of war between the Redguard and the Thalmor. Redguards don't view the Empire as favorably anymore because they do believe that if the two factions teamed up, they would have wiped out the Thalmor. Everyone at this point has been left in a state of fragile peace, preparing for, clearly, an upcoming battle that I imagine would take place in Hammerfell. The Thalmor frequently referred to this point in history as the, quote, first war with the Empire, end quote, likely indicating that a second is to be expected, and that will more than likely also be what takes place during Elder Scrolls 6. Point being is that Hammerfell faced 5 years of additional war. They are in a much more worn down state than I think other regions of Tamriel. So I think it's very weird to claim that in the storyline, suddenly Hammerfell's in a relatively stable state, unless this is many years down the line where everyone's recovered from the war efforts and getting ready to attack once more for that second Great War. Here's the oddly detailed section where I think a lot of folks started to buy into the reality of this leak. The orcs, who add another dimension to the conflict in High Rock, were another major reason Bethesda wanted to create this scene. One of the main story missions features literally hundreds of orcs charging down a mountain and pillaging / burning down a city called Gehenna. From what I'm hearing, think of the siege of Whiterun from Skyrim times 10. Huh. This sounds familiar. I almost saw a Lord of the Rings movie that was like this. That's crazy, wow. Durrani Tower will play a major role in the main questline and will be visible from many places on the map, much like the White Gold Tower in Oblivion or downtown Boston in Fallout 4. The climax of the story takes place on the Isle of Valfira, and as such, ship travel will be in the game. Yeah, so a city called Gehenna, you got the Durrani Tower, you're stringing together all these key locations, what exactly they mean. It's obviously understandable why people would buy into this, but still, I think a lot of these key design points are feasible just because of what we already know about Bethesda Game Studios. Let's take the Durrani Tower example. Right away in every single Bethesda Game Studios game, since I'd say Oblivion, there's almost a central point on the map that no matter where you are in an open world, you can still see this one place. Whether, as this article mentioned, you have downtown Boston, or you have the White Gold Tower in Oblivion, or the city ruins of DC as you exit Vault 101. Bethesda Game Studios, if anything, is incredible at open world design, and I even say that to an extent with 76. Artistically, environmentally, I actually think that's a good open world. It's just that what's in there isn't as interesting, isn't as fun to play outside of Wastelanders. So it naturally makes sense that there would be some type of tower or central point of interest within the map of Elder Scrolls 6 that you'd sort of be revolving your explorations around. We've done it for years and years and years. So just come up with a name and plant it there, and suddenly, well, it makes sense. Bethesda intends to build off of vehicle mechanics developed for Starfield to allow players to traverse the Iliac Bay in ships. The current plan is that there will be several different ships to buy and some very light customization for them. They'll range from a rowboat to a big four-sail pirate ship. They all can be crewed by NPCs in the same way that the player can assign NPCs to different jobs and settlements. By the way, speaking of mechanics, spellcrafting is back. Don't know much about it. And I'm just picturing him sitting there like, yeah, let's just season that a little bit. Yeah, this has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but yeah, spellcrafting in a ship segment we're talking about. But once again, this plays off people's assumptions in a very intelligent way, I'll admit, because based off what lots of folks have assumed when it comes to Starfield, that it's going to be very exploration heavy, as we've seen in Bethesda Game Studios titles. We're probably going to get into a ship, go to various planets. It's not going to be based in one city. And so with Bethesda really introducing more vehicle mechanics behind a horse in Skyrim, we would naturally see that carry over into the Elder Scrolls 6 in another reformed manner. I don't think this is such a crazy idea to dream up, because Bethesda Game Studios has always melded their older ideas into the newer titles. Let's take, for example, the Radiant quests in Skyrim when we had the Thieves Guild and we were restoring them to their former glory. Bethesda took what was a good way to restore the Thieves Guild while adding a lot of additional content with some purpose and totally expanded it into the settlement system that we know today and meme about when it comes to Fallout 4. Or general exploration, when when you look at Oblivion to Fallout 3, I remember when Fallout 3 was called Oblivion with Guns because it was similar exploration. It had a similar feel as you walked around the map, similar conversations, but it was still Fallout, so there was a different DNA in the, of course, gunplay, of course, the world itself. That was all there, but you could tell it was a Bethesda Game Studios title. So I don't think it's far-fetched for them to create this mechanic in Starfield that allows for, say, space travel, and then, since their engine would be capable of that, evolve it once more for ship travel inside Elder Scrolls 6. It doesn't sound that crazy. With that said, I'd imagine physics in general between space travel and how a ship would rock in the water are two totally different things and require two totally different approaches and designs. So I don't think it transitions as easily as what this leak initially suggested, which once again highlights how fake it is. The game world is not being sacrificed for this new mechanic. Based on what I heard and saw, Daggerfall will be the biggest city Bethesda has ever built. They're taking notes from CD Projekt Red for creating the feeling of a dense, bustling city, but are also trying to maintain the motif where every character truly lives there and has a schedule and will do activities as they see fit. To me, that sounds more like Rockstar. But anyway, Daggerfall would be cool, and I didn't mention this in the beginning, but the premise of Hammerfell and High Rock both being the setting of Elder Scrolls 6 would sort of make sense with what they wanted to do with later technology. I mean, Skyrim's still a big game to this day, and what could be bigger than Skyrim but 2 regions of Tamriel to explore? That would be nuts. And since Daggerfall is in High Rock, it would be really interesting to see how Bethesda took on this city. The reason being is, have you guys seen how big Elder Scrolls Daggerfall is? Yes, it is a extremely old game, but just look at this stat on screen here. Half the size of Great Britain, 15,000 towns. Like, this game is insanely big, and it's due to the procedurally generated nature of the game, don't get me wrong, but I just think its sheer scope and scale for a game of its time is insanity. And the idea of taking just that setting, right? Obviously it will not be nearly as big, but just that setting and creating it in modern tech, oh man, that'd be so cool. Now, I hope Bethesda's listening to the community on some of their ideas, because this quest idea, while I said the leak is fake, this quest idea is pretty good. Let's take a read. More unique and interesting quests is also a priority, as it should be. I only know of one specific example, but it sounds pretty cool. A lighthearted side quest is planned in one of the cities, see, once again, vague on details where there need to be details, where the player is asked to babysit a trio of Khajiit children. Kittens? Because the mother needs to go to the market and get more fish for them. This, like most of the game, is still in the conceptual stages, but at the moment the Khajiit kittens are intended to look extremely adorable and innocent, as they should. They proceed to wreck the house, give the player rude dialogue, and one of them will kill and eat a skeever. It's generally supposed to be a very chaotic minute or two. Upon the mother's return, she'll be furious with the player, a speech check can calm her down, or the player can antagonize her to the point of combat, in which case the kittens can later be found in the town's orphanage. Yeah, I mean, that would be... That kind of builds off what we sort of started off the Skyrim Dark Brotherhood questline with, where you had to kill the lady who was owning the orphanage and it kind of freed all the kids. I think that's sort of where this leaker's idea of the quest spawned, but I hope Bethesda's listening at least on that front, because it's pretty good. Not gonna lie, not gonna front. I got no complaints about that quest. The leak concludes by saying that Elder Scrolls 6 is coming out in Q4 2024 and that Starfield is coming next year. See, the thing with Starfield is that you're not crazy for thinking before an outbreak that it could be dropping in 2020. And if you're wrong, you're only off by a set of months, because it would definitely then be 2021. And Bethesda works on a 3 to 4 year dev cycle, although that can be shortened up due to their expansion, so it may be even closer. But calling 2024 for Elder Scrolls 6 is one of the safest guesses I've ever seen. That's like me saying, I know when it's coming out, guys. It's coming out in 2024. Like, doesn't that sound believable, right? So I'm happy this leak happened in a sense, because I got to finally talk about Elder Scrolls 6, just communicate with all of you things I'd like to see, things I think are cool. I think the scope and scale of Elder Scrolls 6 has to be absolutely ginormous to justify waiting well over a decade since Skyrim came out. I was in my junior year of high school, and I'm probably gonna be like 30 years old by the time this game comes out. What? That's not right. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. This was a really long leak video, so I thank you guys for your time, your patience, and I hope you enjoyed a little bit of Elder Scrolls 6 in your life. So, I'll talk with all of you soon. Be sure to let me know what you think of this leak and the future of the Elder Scrolls franchise in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. Big thank you to all the patrons who continue to support the explosive content we've had as of late. Appreciate each and every single one of you. I'll talk with all of you soon. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.